So it's remarkable that the Jewish community in Israel and elsewhere, Jewish community includes people with widely divergent opinions about Israel and about Zionism. Widely divergent. And we have to ask ourselves, can we get along? Now, there is a cacophony of debate about Zionism and about Israel that involves Jews, certainly, but also non-Jews. We have a debate that's intense, passionate, and it's often very angry. And it's a debate that other people listen to. It's not just a Jewish debate. At the same time, there's something very Israeli about all that debating. The Israeli government itself depends on having alliances of political parties that have special interests that can be quite diverse in their opinions, their views. There's sometimes rather extreme political positions that are expressed in Israel's parliament, the Knesset. Sometimes also, we have to admit, there have been corrupt officials at the highest echelons of government. We're now aware that 2 former presidents have had to step down out of office, were convicted of crimes. There's a former prime minister who may have to serve time in prison. It's an unvarnished, unpleasant reality. And it brings me back to a memory when I was a child and I heard someone say, quoting one of the early Zionist leaders, that we'll really be a normal state of Israel when we have our first Jewish criminal. And I was shocked by that. I wasn't sure we really wanted a normal state. I'm not sure we do, actually. I would like Israel to be special, to be different, to be almost messianic and prophetic. But we live in a real world, that's true. And sometimes we have to recognize that certain political opinions and judgments can be valid, but they can also be a bit narrow-minded or a bit messianic, a little bit too optimistic. It's a problem. No country can think about itself or be judged by others without considering the broader implications. We're in a big global world. We're all intertwined. So strategy isn't only about military concerns, it's also about other issues. We have political, diplomatic interests, but we also talk about the culture of a country, what it stands for, what it's proud of. Israel is actually not a small country. The land area is tiny, we know that, but the impact is enormous and extraordinary. The research, the discoveries, the inventions in so many fields have touched the lives of almost every human being in the world today. Whether it's through an app or a drug that's been invented to cure a disease, or a great novel, or a fascinating new way to understand an academic topic, medieval history. Sometimes I compare Israel to some of the other countries that have a somewhat similar history. I think about other countries that emerged, let's say, from British Mandate, followed by war, ethnic and religious divisions. It started out as a miserable economy, bare infrastructure, and had to build itself up. I think of Israel, and I think of those countries that still haven't lifted themselves out of poverty, illiteracy, military dictatorship. Israel has a long road still, but the progress is extraordinary. So what do we do with our divergent positions? Yes, there are many Jews who are very critical of Israeli policies. And some are very critical of the fact that they feel we have to all agree on a single perspective about Israel. There are some Jews who object to the financial support that Israel, the Israeli government, gives to the Haredi, the ultra-Orthodox community. There are others who feel that Israel should abide by Jewish law entirely. There's some who are opposed to West Bank settlements, and some who believe that we've liberated that land of the West Bank as part of biblical Israel. There are Jews who are angered by the Orthodox control of Jewish marriage and divorce. And there are many people who are upset about Israel's military response to the attacks that it's received of rockets from Gaza coming into Israeli territory. There's so many objections that people have. What I tell my students is that they can come and tell me anything. They can tell me left wing, they can tell me right wing. Of course, as long as they make their points in a respectful fashion and an informed way, in a tone that's appropriate to a university and not simply to a conversation on the street, they can come and tell me anything. I have friends who are very right wing and friends who are very left wing. I've heard it all. And I find myself sometimes agreeing with one side and the other times with the other side. Everyone has some good points to make. And I also find that often my friends and colleagues speak in an almost messianic tone, as if wanting to see in Israel a kind of perfection, a perfection that may remind us of what the prophets hope for, but it's a perfection that isn't going to come until the messianic age arrives. So perhaps what we need to do is listen to one another, not to get a little too upset about it. I think that our human judgment is limited. I really don't know in the end which position is going to be the right one, the right path to follow. We'll find out, I suppose, eventually. But I do think as Jews, we bring our moral values to bear. And what we also always keep in mind is that while land is important, as my father said, we do not worship the soil. What is most important are human beings and human life. That's most important. And what we strive for always for those human beings is making peace. And that's what Israel has to represent for all of us.